The ship landed with a soft hiss. June checked his breathing mask one more time before the doors opened. This was his first trip to an alien world, and he didn't want to die from breathing the wrong air. Atmosphere readings normal. Oxygen levels compatible with human needs. Light gravity, about 80% of Earth standard, said the ship's computer. June nodded. As the only xenobiologist on this mission, he had a big job ahead. He had to learn about all the animals and plants on this new world. The aliens who lived here, the Navians, had invited humans to visit after years of talking through space messages. The doors slid open, and bright purple light flooded in. June blinked, letting his eyes adjust. The sky wasn't blue like Earth's, but a soft lavender color. 2 small suns hung in the sky. "Welcome, human visitor," said a voice. June looked down the ramp. 5 aliens stood waiting. They were tall and thin, with smooth blue-gray skin. Their eyes were large, with no whites, just big purple circles. They had 4 long fingers on each hand and wore simple white clothes. "Thank you for the welcome," Jun said, walking down the ramp. "I am Jum Kim, xenobiologist from Earth." One of the aliens stepped forward. She was shorter than the others, with markings on her face that looked like small stars. "I am Hannah," she said. Her voice had a musical quality. "I will be your guide during your stay. I study life forms too, so we have much to talk about." June smiled. "I look forward to learning from you." Hannah led June to a clear, bubble-shaped vehicle. The other Navians watched him with curious eyes, but kept their distance. Inside the vehicle, Hannah touched a panel, and they began to float above the ground. "Our research center is not far," she said. "You are the first human to visit our planet's surface. We are careful with new species." June noticed how she chose her words. "You mean you're nervous about humans?" Hannah's large eyes blinked slowly. "We are a peaceful people. We have heard that humans have a history of fighting and taming wild animals. This is strange to us." As they traveled, Jun saw the landscape change from flat fields to forests with strange trees. The trees had purple trunks and blue leaves that moved even when there was no wind. "Your world is beautiful," Jun said. "Beautiful but dangerous in many places," Hannah replied. They arrived at a large building made of what looked like white stone. It had no corners, just smooth curves. Other Navians moved about, all giving curious looks to June as he stepped out of the vehicle. "This is our main research center," Hannah explained. "Here we study all the life forms on our world. Some we cannot study up close. They are too dangerous." Inside, the building was cool and quiet. The walls glowed with a soft light. Hannah led June down a long hallway with many doors. "These are our research labs," she said. "Each one studies different animals or plants." They stopped at a large window. Through it, June could see a room filled with screens and strange equipment. On the screens were images of a forest, but no animals. "What do you study here?" he asked. Hannah's voice got quieter. "This is where we study the rickshaw. We call it the nightmare in our language." June raised his eyebrows. "A nightmare? What kind of animal is it?" Hannah touched a panel, and one of the screens changed to show a large creature. It had 6 powerful legs, a long body covered in scales that seemed to shift colors, and a head with sharp teeth and 4 eyes. "The rickshaw is our world's most dangerous predator," Hannah said. "They are fast, smart, and deadly. They can change their skin color to hide. They hunt in groups, and they seem to be able to think and plan." June studied the image with interest. "How big are they?" "An adult is twice as tall as you and 3 times as long," Hannah said. "They have killed many of our people throughout history. We avoid the forests where they live. Have you ever captured one to study?" Hannah's eyes widened. "No, that would be too dangerous. We only study them from far away, using robots and cameras." June nodded, still looking at the image. The creature reminded him of Earth's big cats, but with more legs and different features. On Earth, we have many dangerous animals too, he said. But we've learned to understand them, and sometimes even work with them. Hannah looked shocked. Work with apex predators? That seems impossible. Before June could explain, a loud alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed in the hallway. Navians began running in all directions. What's happening? June asked. Hannah's face had turned a pale blue color. Security breach. Something has entered the building that shouldn't be here. A voice came over speakers. Alert. Juvenile raksha detected in Section 3. All personnel evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. Instead of looking scared, Jun felt excited. A chance to see one of these creatures up close. We must go now, Hannah said, pulling at his arm. It's dangerous. Where is it? June asked. I want to see it. Hannah stared at him like he was crazy. See it? No, we must run. But Jun was already moving in the direction other Navians were running from. His training and curiosity pushed him forward. June. Stop. Hannah called, but she stayed where she was, too afraid to follow. June turned a corner and saw what everyone was running from. A younger version of the creature he had seen on the screen was there, trapped in a hallway. It was about the size of a large dog, with scales that shifted between blue and gray. One of its legs looked hurt, and it was making a sound between a growl and a whine. It wasn't the monster Hannah had described. It looked scared. June stayed at the end of the hallway, watching. The young raksha noticed him and hissed, showing sharp teeth. But it didn't charge. It was cornered and injured. Hey there, June said softly. You're scared, aren't you? Got yourself into trouble. He slowly sat down on the floor, making himself smaller and less threatening. This was how he had worked with dangerous animals on Earth. Never stand tall. Never make sudden moves. Show you're not a threat. The raksha watched him with all four of its eyes. It seemed confused by his behavior. Behind him, Jun heard a small gasp. He glanced back to see Hannah and several other Navians watching from around a corner. Their faces showed pure terror. What are you doing? Hannah whispered. It will kill you. I don't think so, Jun said quietly. It's young and scared. And I'm not acting like prey. He turned his attention back to the raksha. It had stopped hissing and was now watching him with what looked like curiosity. See, it's trying to figure me out, Jun said. He noticed a water bottle attached to his belt. Very slowly, he took it out and poured some water into his hand. Then he placed his hand on the floor and slid it forward a little. The raksha sniffed the air. Its scaled skin rippled with changing colors. June, Hannah's voice trembled. No one has ever been this close to a live raksha without being attacked. Then why isn't it attacking me? June asked without taking his eyes off the creature. I don't know, she admitted. The young raksha took a small step forward, then stopped. June remained still. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then, to everyone's shock, the creature slowly moved toward the water in June's hand. It stopped just short, stretched out its neck, and lapped at the water with a forked tongue. June heard Hannah and the others make sounds of disbelief. Impossible, someone whispered. The raksha finished drinking and looked up at June with its four eyes. Then it made a soft trilling sound, nothing like the fierce growls they had heard before. I think we got off on the wrong foot, June said to the creature. But I think we can be friends. Behind him, Hannah had moved closer, her fear now mixed with scientific curiosity. How are you doing this? She asked. Why isn't it attacking you? June smiled. Maybe because I'm not afraid of it, or maybe humans smell different to it than Navians do. But I think this little one just needs help. The young raksha sat down, still watching June. Its injured leg was held carefully off the ground. And in that moment, watching human and raksha looking at each other without fear, Hannah realized that everything her people thought they knew about these creatures, and about humans, might need to be reconsidered. The next morning, Hannah led a group of nervous Navian scientists to the secure room where June had spent the night with the young Raksha. Everyone expected to find either a dead human or an escaped predator. What they saw instead made them stop and stare. June sat cross-legged on the floor. The young Raksha lay beside him, its head resting near his knee. June was gently touching its injured leg, which now had a clean white bandage around it. "Good morning," June said cheerfully. "We had a good night." Hannah stepped forward while the others stayed by the door. "You slept in the same room with it?" June nodded. "I named him Da. It means great in my language. He was calm all night after I treated his leg." One of the older Navians, a male with deep blue skin, shook his head. "This goes against everything we know about Rakshas. They are killers. They hunt our people." "Maybe they hunt because they see you as enemies," June suggested. "Or maybe there's something about humans that doesn't trigger their hunting instinct." Hannah moved closer, though June could see she was still afraid. "What do you mean?" "On Earth, many animals react to certain smells or movements. Maybe the Rakshas respond to something in Navian biology that humans don't have," June explained. "I'd like to run some tests, if that's okay." The older Navian scientist, who introduced himself as Jin, agreed but with strict rules. "The creature stays in this secure room. If it shows any sign of aggression, we will remove it immediately." Over the next few days, June spent most of his time with Da. He set up cameras so the Navians could watch from a safe distance. They recorded everything June did with the young Raksha. June discovered that Dad was very smart. He could solve simple puzzles to get food. He understood basic commands after June showed him just a few times. "Look at this," June said on the third day, pointing to a small box he had placed on the floor. "Dai, bring the box." The young Raksha looked at the box, then at June. It walked over, picked up the box with its mouth, and brought it back. In the observation room, Hannah and her team watched with wide eyes. "That's impossible," Jin said. "We've always thought they were just animals acting on instinct." "Many Earth predators are highly intelligent," June explained through the speaker. "Wolves, dolphins, great apes, even some birds can solve complex problems and learn from humans." On the fourth day, Hannah finally asked to enter the room with June and Da. Jin and the others thought it was too dangerous, but she insisted. "If humans can do this, we should learn how," she said. When the door opened, Da looked up quickly. Seeing Hannah, he made a low rumbling sound in his throat. "Stay still," June told her. "Let him smell you from a distance." Hannah froze. Her skin had turned a pale blue color, showing her fear. But she stood her ground as Da approached slowly. "He can sense your fear," June said quietly. "Try to breathe normally." Hannah took a deep breath. "Our people have feared Rakshas for thousands of years. It's in our biology to be afraid." "I understand. But try to think of him as a young animal, not a monster," June suggested. Da stopped a few feet from Hannah. He sniffed the air, his 4 eyes focused on her. "What is he doing?" Hannah whispered. "Learning about you," June said. "Stay still, but talk to him in a soft voice." Hannah swallowed hard. "Hello, Da," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm Hannah. I've never been this close to one of your kind before." To her surprise, Da made a soft trilling sound, similar to what he did with June. Then he turned and walked back to the corner where he had a bed of soft blankets. "He accepted you," June said, smiling. "That's a good first step." Hannah let out the breath she had been holding. "That was the most terrifying and amazing moment of my life." Over the next few days, Hannah visited more often. Each time, she got a little closer to Da. She watched how June interacted with him, noting every detail. Slowly, her fear began to change into something else: curiosity. In our history, she told June one day as they watched Da playing with a ball, "We have lost entire cities to Raksha attacks. They are why we built walls around our settlements. There are huge areas of our world we don't go to because they live there. On Earth, humans once feared wolves, and bears the same way, Jun said. But over time, we learned to understand them. Some wolves even became our partners. We call them dogs now. They help us hunt, protect our homes, and are our companions. Hana looked shocked. You turned predators into friends. It took thousands of years, Jun explained. But yes, humans have a long history of working with animals that other species might only see as dangerous. One morning, Jin entered the observation room with a serious face. The sensors have detected something outside the research center. A group of adult rakshas is moving in this direction. Hana's eyes widened. They must be looking for the young one. This is dangerous, Jin said. If they attack the center, many could die. Jun had been listening through the speaker. Or this could be an opportunity, he said. What if I take Da outside and try to return him to his family? The room went silent. Finally, Jin spoke. That would be suicide. Not necessarily, Jun argued. Da trusts me now. And if my theory is correct about why they don't see me as a threat, this could be our chance to establish peaceful contact with adult rakshas. I'll go with you, Hana said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. Hana, no, Jin said. It's too dangerous. I've been studying how Jun interacts with Da, she said. I want to see if I can do the same with the adults. This could change everything we know about rakshas. After much argument, a plan was made. Jun and Hana would take Da to the edge of the center's grounds. Armed Navian guards would watch from a distance, ready to help if needed. As they prepared to leave, Hana was visibly nervous. Her hands shook as she put on a protective vest. Are you sure about this? Jun asked her. Hana nodded. I'm terrified, but also excited. No Navian has ever tried to understand rakshas before. We've only tried to avoid them or fight them. They put Da in a large transport container with air holes and loaded it onto a hover vehicle. As they moved toward the edge of the compound, Hana pointed to the forest ahead. The sensors show they're in those trees, she said. 5 adults. Jun nodded. Let's stop here. We'll let Da out and see what happens. They stopped the vehicle about 100 yards from the tree line. Jun opened the container and Da jumped out. He seemed excited, sniffing the air and looking toward the forest. Now we wait, Jun said. Minutes passed. Then, at the edge of the forest, branches moved. A large shape emerged from the trees. It was an adult raksha, at least twice Da's size. Its scales shifted colors to match the surroundings. Hana gasped. That's the biggest one I've ever seen, she whispered. The adult raksha made a low call. Da responded immediately with a similar sound. Then, to Hana's amazement, the young raksha looked back at Jun, as if waiting. It's okay, Jun said softly. Go to your family. Da trotted a few steps toward the adult, then stopped and looked back again. I think he wants us to follow, Jun said. Are you ready for this? Hana took a deep breath. No, but I'm going anyway. Together, they began to walk slowly behind Da, toward the edge of the forest where the adult raksha waited, watching them with 4 unblinking eyes. The adult raksha stood still as Jun and Hana walked slowly toward it. Da ran ahead, making happy sounds. The big raksha lowered its head to touch Da, checking the young one all over, especially the bandaged leg. I think that's its mother, Jun whispered. Hana could barely speak. Her whole body was shaking. Every part of her biology told her to run away, but she forced herself to stay next to Jun. How can you be so calm? She asked. I'm not completely calm, Jun admitted, but I've worked with predators before. The key is to show no fear and no threat. They stopped about 20 feet from the 2 rakshas. The mother looked up at them, her 4 eyes studying them carefully. Her scales rippled, changing colors from forest green to a deep red. Is the red color bad? Jun asked. I don't know, Hannah said. Our records don't have much information about their color changes. We've never been this close to study them. The mother Raksha made a deep rumbling sound. Suddenly, 4 more adult Rakshas emerged from the trees. They formed a half circle, watching June and Hannah. Don't move, June said quietly. They're deciding if we're a threat. Back at the research center, Jin and the other scientists watched through cameras. Armed guards stood ready to rush in if needed. This is madness, Jin said. No Navian has ever survived such a close encounter with a pack of Rakshas. On the field, Jun slowly raised his hand, palm out, toward the mother Raksha. It was a gesture he had used with Da. The mother tilted her head, watching. What are you doing? Hannah whispered. Showing her I mean no harm, Jun explained. And showing her I know her child. To everyone's surprise, Day ran back to Jun and pushed his head against Jun's leg. Then Day ran back to his mother and made a series of sounds. It was almost like he was telling her something. The mother Raksha took a step forward. Hannah held her breath. The huge creature was now just 10 feet away. It could jump and kill them in seconds. Instead, it lowered its head and made a soft sound, similar to what Dai did when he was calm. I think she's thanking us for helping her child, Jun said. Just then, they heard engines roaring behind them. 3 large vehicles sped toward them from the research center. No, Hannah cried. They'll ruin everything. The Rakshas heard the noise and immediately changed their stance. Their bodies lowered, ready to attack. The mother's scales turned bright red. We need to stop those vehicles, Jun said urgently. Hannah turned and waved her arms. Stop. Stay back. We're not in danger. The vehicle skidded to a halt about 50 yards away. The doors opened, and several Navians in military uniforms stepped out. They held large weapons. Step away from the Rakshas, one of them called. We're here to protect you. We don't need protection, Hannah shouted back. We're communicating with them. The military leader, a tall Navian named Tai, walked forward with his weapon ready. This is Commander Tai of the Navian Defense Force. Those creatures are a threat to our safety. We have orders to remove them. June stepped forward. Commander, please lower your weapon. You're making them defensive. We were making progress. Progress. Ta looked at June with disbelief. These are Rakshas. They've killed thousands of our people throughout history. Because you've never tried to understand them, June said. Look at the young one. We helped him when he was hurt. Now his family isn't attacking us. They're curious. Ta shook his head. I have my orders. All personnel must return to the research center. We will handle the Rakshas. Handle them. Hannah stepped forward, surprising even herself with her boldness. You mean kill them? After we just proved they can be peaceful. While they argued, the Rakshas began to back toward the forest. The mother called to die, but the young one hesitated, looking back at June. See, June pointed. He trusts me. That changes everything we thought we knew about these creatures. Commander Ta lowered his weapon slightly, looking confused. This goes against everything we've been taught. Sometimes new information changes old beliefs, Jun said. That's what science is about. Suddenly, Day ran back to June. The young Raksha nudged his leg, then ran a few steps toward the forest, then back to June again. I think he wants me to follow, Jun said. That's too dangerous, Commander Ta said firmly. June looked at Hannah. What do you think? Hannah took a deep breath. I think this is a historic opportunity. If we turn back now, we may never get another chance. You can't seriously be considering going into Raksha territory, Ta said. Not territory, Hannah corrected him. Their home. And yes, I am considering it. She turned to June. I'll go with you. Commander Ta stepped forward. I cannot allow civilian scientists to put themselves in such danger. If anyone goes, it should be trained military personnel. With all due respect, Commander, Jum said. Armed soldiers would send the wrong message. The Rekshas already trust me, and they're starting to trust Hana. We're the logical choice. After much argument, a compromise was reached. Jum and Hana would follow the Rekshas, but they would wear tracking devices. A small team led by Commander Ta would follow at a distance, ready to help if needed. As they prepared to enter the forest, Jin approached Hana. Are you sure about this? No Navian has ever willingly entered Reksha territory and returned. Hana looked at the forest, then at Jum, who was crouched down petting Da. I'm terrified, she admitted, but also excited. We might learn things about Rekshas that no one knows, and if Jun is right, we might find a way to live in peace with them. Jin nodded slowly. Be careful, and record everything you can. Jun and Hana started walking toward the forest. Day ran ahead, looking back often to make sure they were following. At the edge of the trees, the mother Reksha waited, watching them carefully. Remember to move slowly, Jun told Hana. No sudden movements. And try to stay calm. They can sense fear. Easier said than done, Hana replied. Her voice shook, but she kept walking. As they entered the forest, the light changed. The purple-leaved trees created a soft, strange glow. The ground was covered with blue moss that seemed to glow slightly where they stepped. The Rekshas moved easily through the trees. They were much faster than Jun and Hana, but they kept stopping and waiting. They're definitely leading us somewhere, Jun said. After walking for about an hour, they came to a clearing. In the center was a large rock formation with many openings, caves. Around the clearing, more Rekshas appeared, of different sizes. Some were older than the mother, their scales duller. Some were very young, even smaller than Da. It's their home, Hana whispered in awe. A whole community. The mother Reksha made a loud call. The other Rekshas gathered around, all looking at the two strangers who had entered their home. There must be at least 30 of them, Jun said. This is amazing. One very large Reksha with many scars stepped forward. It was bigger than all the others, its scales a deep blue-black color. I think that's their leader, Hana said. The big Reksha came within a few feet of Jun and Hana. It lowered its head and made a series of complex sounds. Day ran up to the leader, rubbing against its legs, then came back to Jun, doing the same thing. He's introducing us, Jun realized. The leader Reksha looked at them for a long moment. Then, slowly, it lowered its body to the ground in front of them. What is it doing? Hana asked. I think. Jun's voice was filled with wonder. I think it's showing respect. Carefully, Jun bowed to the Reksha. After a moment's hesitation, Hana did the same. The leader Reksha stood again. Then it turned and walked toward one of the caves. At the entrance, it stopped and looked back at them. I think we're being invited in, Jun said. Hana swallowed hard. Into a Reksha den. No Navian has ever seen such a thing. Jun smiled at her. Ready to make history? Despite her fear, Hana nodded. Ready. Together, they walked forward, following the leader Reksha into the cave, while dozens of the creatures that Navians had feared for centuries watched them enter their most private space. Inside the cave, they would discover something that would change the relationship between Navians and Rekshas forever. The inside of the cave was not dark as Hana had expected. The walls glowed with a soft blue light from tiny plants growing on the rock. The air was warm and surprisingly fresh. The leader Reksha led them deeper into the cave. Jun and Hana walked carefully, staying close together. Other Rekshas followed behind them. Look at the walls, Jun whispered. Hana gasped. The cave walls had markings on them, lines and shapes that looked too regular to be natural. Are those drawings? She asked. Jun nodded. I think so. Like cave paintings made by early humans on Earth. They came to a large open space inside the cave. In the center was a raised stone area. Around it, many Rekshas sat watching them. Young ones peeked out from behind their parents. The leader rickshaw walked to the center stone and made a series of sounds. Other rickshaws responded with similar sounds. "They're communicating," Joan said. "Not just animal noises. This sounds like a language." The mother rickshaw who had led them here nudged Dog forward. The young rickshaw ran to the center stone and made excited sounds, looking back at June and Hannah. "I think he's telling them about us," June said. "About how we helped him." Hannah could hardly believe what she was seeing. All our history books say rickshaws are just animals, dangerous predators with no higher thinking. But this, she gestured around the cave. This is a society. The leader rickshaw turned to face them. Then it did something that shocked both June and Hannah. It used one of its front paws to draw something on the ground. The lines looked like a simple picture of the research center. "It's drawing our building," Hannah whispered. "How is this possible?" The leader made more marks, smaller shapes near the building. Then it looked at June and Hannah, as if waiting for a response. "I think it's asking about the other Navians," June said. He knelt down and used his finger to draw in the dirt too. He made simple figures representing people. The rickshaw watched carefully. Then it drew a line between the people figures and the rickshaw figures, with a mark that looked like an X crossing the line. "I think it's showing that Navians and rickshaws have been separated," Hannah said. "The X means they don't mix." June nodded. He erased the X and drew a simple curved line that looked like a smile. The leader rickshaw tilted its head, studying the drawing. All around them, the other rickshaws made soft sounds to each other. They seemed to be discussing what they were seeing. Suddenly, Dai jumped forward. He used his paw to draw something too, a simple shape that looked like June next to a shape that looked like a rickshaw, with no line between them. "He's showing that we can be together without a barrier," June said. "That we helped him." The leader rickshaw looked at Dai's drawing for a long time. Then it made a new sound, deeper and longer than before. All the other rickshaws became very quiet. After what seemed like a long silence, the leader drew again. This time, it made a circle with both Navian figures and rickshaw figures inside it. "I think," Hannah said slowly, "it's suggesting we can share the world." Before they could respond, they heard sounds from the cave entrance. Commander Tai and 2 of his soldiers had followed them. "Step away from them," Ta called, raising his weapon. The rickshaws immediately changed their posture. Many stood up, their scales turning bright warning colors. "No," June shouted. "Commander, lower your weapon. We're in the middle of something important." The leader rickshaw moved between its pack and the newcomers. It made a threatening sound, but did not attack. "Can't you see?" Hannah said, stepping forward. "If they wanted to hurt us, they would have done it already. They brought us here to communicate." Commander Tai looked confused. His weapon remained pointed at the rickshaws, but his hands were shaking. "This goes against everything we know about these creatures." "Because everything you know is wrong," Jun said firmly. "They're not just animals. Look around you. These are cave drawings. They have a language. They're trying to talk to us." Tay's eyes widened as he finally noticed the drawings on the walls and floor. "How is this possible? Our scientists have studied them for generations." "From a distance," Hannah pointed out. "No one ever tried to get close enough to understand them. We were too afraid." The leader rickshaw was still watching Ta carefully. Slowly, Joan walked over to stand beside it. "Commander, I'm going to show you something. Please don't react badly." Very carefully, Joan placed his hand on the leader rickshaw's side. The creature turned its head to look at him, but did not move away. Its scales changed to a calm blue color. "It trusts him," one of Ta's soldiers whispered in awe. Commander Ta slowly lowered his weapon. "This changes everything." "Yes," Hannah agreed. "Everything." Over the next few weeks, June worked with Hannah to create a special team of Navians who wanted to learn about the rickshaws. Not everyone was ready to change their beliefs. Many Navians still feared the creatures and wanted nothing to do with them. But some, especially younger scientists, were eager to learn. June taught them techniques he had used with Earth predators, how to approach without seeming threatening, how to read body language, how to show respect. The key, he explained to a group of Navian students, is to understand that they are intelligent beings with their own society. They're not monsters or mindless animals. They're people in their own way. Hannah became the leader of the new Reksha research team. She spent every day learning more about them. She even started to understand some of their sound language. They have names for each other, she told June one day as they watched a group of young Rekshas playing. The leader's name sounds something like Kor in our language, and they have names for us too. They call you the Calm One. June smiled. What do they call you? The Brave One, Hannah said with a shy smile, though I don't feel very brave most of the time. You are brave, June insisted. You faced your biggest fear and changed your whole world's understanding of these creatures. One sunny day, a month after their first visit to the Reksha cave, June and Hannah led a small group of Navian children to the edge of the forest. With their parents watching nervously from a distance, the children waited as Da and two other young Rekshas emerged from the trees. The Navian children were nervous at first, but soon they were laughing as the young Rekshas showed them games they played. One little Navian girl even found the courage to touch Da's scales. They're not scary, she announced. They're beautiful. A photographer captured the moment. A small Navian child gently petting a creature that had been feared for thousands of years. The image spread across the Navian world, causing both shock and wonder. In the main city, Jin presented their findings to the Navian Council. The human approach to predators has changed everything we thought we knew, he explained. The Rekshas are not our enemies. They never were. We just never tried to understand them. Not all Navians were convinced. Some areas still banned Rekshas from entering. But in the region around the research center, a new relationship began. The Rekshas helped the Navians by keeping other dangerous animals away from their farms. In return, the Navians shared medicine and food when needed. On June's last day on the planet, before returning to Earth, Hannah took him to a special place. It was a new building at the edge of the forest, a meeting place where Navians and Rekshas could interact. This would never have happened without you, Hannah said. Our people have feared Rekshas for our entire history. You taught us a different way. I just showed you what humans learned long ago, June said. That understanding is better than fear. As they talked, a group of visitors from another alien world arrived. They had heard about the amazing changes on Navia and came to see for themselves. When they saw Hannah sitting calmly with a full-grown Reksha beside her, they stopped in shock. Is that safe? One of them asked nervously. We heard these creatures are deadly predators. Hannah smiled as she gently scratched under the Reksha's chin. The huge creature made a happy rumbling sound, its scales turning a peaceful blue color. They were never monsters, she explained. We just didn't understand them. It took a human to show us that fear blinds understanding, and that even apex predators can become allies when approached with respect rather than terror. The visitors looked at each other in amazement. One of them turned to June. Is this common for humans? To make friends with dangerous predators? June thought about Earth's long history with wolves, big cats, and other animals that had gone from enemies to companions. Yes, he said simply. Humans have always found ways to connect with the wild. It's part of who we are. As the sun set over Navia, casting a purple glow across the sky, June watched Hannah leading a new group of young Navian scientists toward Reksha territory, land that had been forbidden to their kind for thousands of years. They walked with confidence and respect, not fear. It was the beginning of a new chapter for both species, all because one human showed them that understanding could overcome even the deepest fears. Safe travels, June, Hannah called as he prepared to board his ship. Your people have taught mine a lesson we will never forget. And your world has given me amazing stories to take back to Earth, June replied with a smile. This is why we explore the stars, not just to find new worlds, but to share what makes each of us special. As his ship rose into the purple sky, Jun could see Hannah standing at the edge of the forest. Beside her was the leader Raksha, both of them watching his departure. Two species that once lived in fear of each other, now standing together in peace. It was, Jun thought, the most human victory of all.